So our goal is to roll this program out to as many people as possible. We're targeting an audience of 1,000 citizens over the next year. We've so far been able to teach 300 people. The schools are really supportive, so we have our educators that have already been trained. And going forward, we're hoping we can get all the educators trained. So it's a little bit of, I'll turn mine off and leave yours on. So I guess the recent push for this type of training around the country is really based on the kind of these tragic events, these mass shootings, these horrible traumatic injuries. And nationwide, we had a whole bunch of really smart people, National College of Surgeons being one, the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care being another, that came together and really looked at the way that we were treating major traumatic people, major bleeding in the field before you get to the hospital. And really this program that we're teaching comes out of a lot of what we learned overseas, what we learned in Iraq and Afghanistan. That was almost bad. We do not want to drop the radio in the blood. And what we learned was that major bleeding, if you don't control major bleeding immediately, the likelihood of death goes up. What we've learned here locally is, or stateside, is that during these mass incidents, if bleeding isn't controlled by the people that are there, the likelihood that people are going to survive is also very slim. And what really kind of drove this home for me was I had an opportunity to meet with the responders that responded to the Las Vegas shooting. And when they told me about what they saw and what they did, and when they realized that there were 54 fatalities, 30 of which the bleeding could have been controlled if the public knew how to do it, that makes the tragedy a little worse. And what we also learned from that event was that kind of the process and the things we've been telling people for years is just wait till we get here and we'll take it from there. And that mentality doesn't work anymore. We really want to empower the public to take care of themselves, empower the public to take care of their friends and family, the person that's with them. So out of that, we adopted this national program. We're doing a road show. We're going around to any civic group, any club, any school that wants to, and we're teaching people how to stop the bleeding. And it's really simple. We have some tools that we'll use. We've got some hands-on mannequins here for anybody that wants to practice, which is kind of the fun part, which is kind of the feel of what it's like. But really what we're teaching is that tourniquets are a good thing. If we have somebody that has major bleeding is really defined as anytime their bleeding has created a pooling. So if it's starting to make a puddle, that's major bleeding. Or anytime the clothing is saturated, it's major bleeding. And rather than worry about how do I stop the bleeding, we're saying go ahead and use your Stop the Bleed kits. And Joe, if you want to hand me one from behind you, use the tourniquets that are in the Stop the Bleed kits. These are now popping up at all of our schools. We'll actually leave one here when we leave to put with your AED. And we're saying go ahead and use the tourniquet that's in that kit. Put the tourniquet on the limb and stop the bleeding. What the fear behind tourniquets 3, 4, 5 years ago even was that if you put a tourniquet on, you're going to lose the limb. Unfortunately, we've had many of injuries overseas where soldiers have been wearing these tourniquets, putting tourniquets on themselves for extended periods like 8 hours. And there's no damage from the actual tourniquets. They're safe to use, they're very effective. The key to these tourniquets is really to put them high, put them tight, so that all bleeding stops. So when we teach people how to use them, there are 2 different types that we have out in our community. These are the SAM tourniquets, these are the CAT tourniquets.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
These are the SAM brand, these are the CAT brand. All of our ambulances, all the kits that we have for major mass events, we use the CATs. We have some of the SAMs in our schools, and I'll kind of show you the difference between the two. The key is both of them are made by very reputable medical suppliers. There's a whole bunch of imitations on the internet, people that want to buy a tourniquet, you really need to make sure you buy it straight from the manufacturer, because this windlass bar in the middle is really critical to their function, and the imitations, the bar breaks and they fail to work. We've been getting multiple bulletins from ambulance services around the country that have had imitation ones breaking in the field. So we do want to emphasize that if you do want to buy them, make sure you buy the real thing. If you do want kits, call us up at Rescue. We have the real ones, we have the kits and everything you need in them. But these are very simple to use. The tail goes through the buckle. You pull, so I can do it on myself pretty quickly. Pull it as tight as you can get it, the Velcro, and you turn this windlass rod until the bleeding completely stops. And you can probably tell that was about 10 seconds, and I have all the bleeding controlled. There's no blood circulation to my arm right now.
So that tightens it.
It tightens it up.
Your
So,
fingers.
yeah, so you can kind of see. So the key is you keep tightening this up high and tight until the bleeding stops. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. It's a painful experience.
You might actually run into people who took these courses years and years ago. Years and years ago, the tourniquet was the last thing you used. So if someone came on the scene with you and said, no, we're not doing that first, they're not updated.
Yeah, now it's
You are
tourniquet
correct.
first.
Years ago, the tourniquet was the last thing you used. And that's the only thing that really comes out of good, that comes out of wars, is stuff like this.
Because it used to be pressure on it, right?
Yeah.
Elevation
That's
pressure,
it.
then if that didn't work, you did this, but now we're going
Yep.
right to there.
So anytime you have that bleeding on an arm or leg, we're going to go tourniquet first. The kind that we have in some of our schools, these are SAM tourniquets. The only difference between these and the other ones is they make a clicking noise when you wrap it around to let you know that you're tight enough. The other ones don't have the clicking noise. So that's really the only difference.
So it clicks and then you turn it.
It clicks, you stick the Velcro back, and then you turn it. It's the only difference between the two. Other than that, they work essentially the same. They do, again, hurt a fair amount. And
Pain's better than death.
Correct.
Does it tell you, or how do you know when it's tight enough?
the bleeding will stop. And when we practice here in a few minutes, we're going to practice down here on these mannequins.
See.
So you can see how tight you have to turn them to make the bleeding stop.
Uh-huh.
So the bleeding will come to a stop once you have them tight enough. So what I have now is I'd like you to find a friend. If you don't have a friend, we'll assign a friend.
Oh, really? I'm gonna turn it again.
And then you don't need to ratchet them up nice and tight, but at least practice putting them on. If you're so inclined, and you want to really crank it up, Joe and I are used to the pain.
Where are you
We'll be glad to
bleeding?
let you.
You're gushing from your wrist.
Oh, okay.
So if
We've got ours.
the
You
bleeding
can do
is
my
here,
other
do you
arm.
come here or do you come all the way?
I want you to go high and tight, as high up and as tight as you can get.
So like right up to here?
Yep.
Okay.
High and tight is key.
High and tight.
High and tight.
High and tight is key.
Yeah, this is confusing.
For whatever
Come in
reason,
through the back and then down through the front?
you don't have to go through it, just one buckle is
Oh,
fine.
one of them, okay.
Yep. If for whatever reason you guys put a tourniquet on and when we arrive we're like, that really didn't need a tourniquet, no harm, we'll just take it off. It's not a big deal. We'd much rather you stop the bleeding first and let us decide whether it's important.
Not snapped.
Do you give us
Isn't
this?
that hurt?
I'm going to give you a kit to put with your AEG.
Is that hurting?
It's going to hurt. If you keep cranking it well.
Right level, when you stand
All right,
up.
okay, all right, good, all right.
Yes, it does.
We don't want to cut our circuit.
Yep. But it's, again, it's a painful
I
experience.
see how it works,
But
yeah.
bleeding to death is also a negative experience.
Right.
We're not clicking.
For some
Not
people.
clicking.
We're not clicking.
You're not clicking, so
Am I not strong enough?
that's one of the reasons.
A tourniquet kit, that one called Stop the Bleed.
you go.
Pull,
And there's
so it
two
clicks,
different,
keep
yeah,
pulling.
And the,
you can't
what
click it, then
missed
just don't throw it
was
back on
Old
itself, that's fine.
wisdom said tourniquet
Okay.
Put it
works.
back on itself. Now turn that rod.
Pressure on the other
Even
thing.
without the click, the rod will
More
work.
time and everything else says tourniquet
Yeah,
first.
see? All
Stop.
right.
I got it.
Sorry.
I got it.
I'm
I
so
got
sorry.
that.
You could tell from the
How do we get
facial,
her out of
you could tell from the facial expression it was working, wasn't it?
Stop the bleeding. Other people
Thank
on
you.
the ground, that's not
You want me to try it?
You can try it on me.
What's it, what done her?
because
I am gushing from my hand.
high and tight.
High and tight.
So let's use
Okay,
We'll use this kind, this is what's in the kit that we're gonna
Well, you
leave
said you
here.
have to reset it.
You gotta make sure that you slip it.
That one I did not, you didn't click, so you're all set.
Yeah, but
Let me have you use
did
this
you
one,
reset it?
because this is the type that's gonna be in the kit that we're leaving
Oh,
here.
okay.
So we'll let you use the one that you're gonna have.
And does this one not click?
That one does not click.
Okay, I couldn't get that
It
one.
won't work well if you do.
So the kit that's gonna be staying here has these in it, so that's the one you guys.
And then start turning the,
Turn.
now you just turn that and
Turn.
that tightens it.
Oh yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? All right.
That's enough. And then you do that?
Yep.
So the last step is, once you've got it twisted up, is you're gonna put this little thing in the clip first. See this little clip right here?
Oh,
You tuck that into here so it can't come undone.
Ain't that something?
yeah, that is. Well,
You
if
bring
you're,
it across and
if
then
you're
drop it
hurting.
down.
If you're gushing that bad.
So that's the last piece.
Now, because I'm confused.
I'm not-
I just
So the
knocked
last,
my hand. It didn't stop.
the last part,
That's
that's
amazing.
part one. So the last part,
That really hurts.
it does hurt.
Did you really?
You think that hurts? Wait till next thing I teach you. We're gonna turn this around. Once it tightens, it goes in that little
Wanna do it
clip
again?
right there.
No.
That's what keeps
I
it
got
from
it.
being undone.
I have one of
And
those
there's a little
handy, I
Velcro
don't know what to
tab
do with it.
comes over it.
Thank you.
And you leave that on
How
till
should
you
we
get
edit
someone
through
to
here?
the
Yep,
hospital
until
or
either,
wherever you're taking.
until either a paramedic or a doctor tells you to take it off.
That's with limbs.
Something like
I'm
that.
curious about,
Well, I wondered what, how
hold
you
it.
kept the rod.
I gotta say, most people,
Yeah, because I thought it was gonna
myself,
undo,
I'm
untwist it.
curious
That's how it
about
holds.
this is from
That's great.
anything you watched on TV.
This
and
is
how
much
they
easier
do it on
than the other
television.
one.
Yes.
Much easier.
On how they do this on television. So,
Yeah.
And once,
when
and
it
you
comes
keep
up in
twisting
different
this. You
shows
just
and
keep
they're
twisting
doing
this until it
somebody
stops.
does it,
Yeah.
it's not-
Until the
they're not
bleeding
guilty.
stops?
Until the bleeding
Somebody
stops.
else is there.
The screaming's gonna continue, it's
And I
gonna
was
hurt.
curious.
But the bleeding.
How
So-
true
I
so
know,
to
right?
what
These are also
they should-
big
I'm gonna
enough
go home and sew
Yeah,
it
some of these shows
that
like
you
the
do legs.
stuff,
The
you
key
know,
with the legs
probably-
Right.
is you can't have anything in your pockets if you got a cell phone. You gotta take that out. I've got a knife from above it.
Not
You
even
pull
the
it tight.
medical shows. I'm just
Again,
talking about
as far as you can get it,
any
and the same
movie or
thing.
TV
You
show.
twist that
Yeah, I don't
out,
watch movies.
and that'll stop
Yeah.
all the bleeding in your leg too.
Oh my God,
Same
well, you know,
circuit.
if I'm bleeding that bad, I'll be passed out
Okay.
anyway,
So they go on the legs, again, high and tight is the key. So if you're gonna put them on your arm or your leg, arms they need to be really, really high, legs they need to be really high.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So no matter where the
Are you
bleeding
stuck?
is, you
Yep.
go
Okay, you got it?
I get it, oh yeah.
Got
I've had a lot of tourniquets on. Got it?
So alternative to this, if I'm at home and I don't have one of these kits?
So,
Any type of a strap with a
So the
ratchet type, like a canoe?
the key
You know,
is
the
the
thing.
windlass. So that little bar is really the key.
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons why we like having these kits out in public is, you saw how quick these work. You know, that's what they're designed for. This is what our military uses, the cat tourniquet. It takes a matter of seconds to stop the bleeding. If you have to, say stop the bleeding, you don't have one of these, you can do it. You're gonna need something strong. And a piece of fabric. So we'll use this for a minute. Joe, just your arm here for a second. So this could be a strip of cloth, it could be a shirt, it could be anything you want it to be. But we wrap it around tight. You need some sort of windlass bar that's gonna go in the middle of it. And then this gets twisted, the same as,
Yeah.
and you can create a tourniquet.
Nice.
They don't work nearly as well as the
Right.
ones that are in our
It's
kits.
better than nothing.
Does that hurt?
Yeah.
Then we'll go one more turn, okay? So yes, you can create one with a piece of fabric. And you notice I didn't use all of it, because when I'm done, I'm gonna use this part to tie the rest of it down.
And what about the width of the fabric? I mean, if all you have is a strap, like
Oh,
a shirt.
So
Yeah.
really what you're looking for is this width, 1.5 inches.
Okay.
People are like, hey, I got a leather belt on, I can pull it tight.
That's what- yeah.
Leather belts don't work, because you can't twist them.
Yeah.
And you're not strong enough to be able to pull that down in order to get it to stop.
But a dog leash is probably not
Uh,
wide enough.
It's not, probably not wide enough. Yeah, so really the key is that twisting motion.
A tie?
Tie might work.
What if you only have a shirt?
Shirt, and take the scissors, rip a strip out of it. I did a class for some nurses, we actually made them cut their scrubs up. We brought extras for them, but, and use little strips of fat cloth.
If you got a long sleeve shirt, you just cut those.
Cut one arm off, yep.
Yeah.
Just cut one arm off.
Cut the bottom of your shirt. So, again, in an ideal world, we're trying to get these out into all of our public access so
That's
that people
great.
can have the right tools. What we have in our kits are the tourniquets, as well as what these are, which are Israeli bandages. So these bandages come, where's the other one, Joe? This one here, we've already taken apart. There's one more over there.
Should we let the other shopkeepers know that we have this here?
Yeah, if you have an emergency, absolutely.
So your homework tonight is you go home, look for something that you might use for windlass. I mean, it could even be a kitchen knife.
Well,
Twirl it out.
so if it is a finger, do you do the tourniquet down?
So if it's a finger,
Yeah,
you're probably not going to have that, what we consider major bleeding, right? It's probably not going to create a puddle or saturate your clothes. So we go to tourniquets only if it creates a puddle or you saturate clothes.
Okay.
And I should be, especially because we have a camera audience, point out that you cannot tourniquet your neck.
yeah.
My wife told me that she could, but I said that was completely unrelated to bleeding control.
Okay.
Okay, so the tourniquets go only on the arms, only high, and we're really talking about that major bleeding. Enough to create a puddle or to saturate your clothes.
So your finger wouldn't create that much bleeding?
It wouldn't create that much bleeding. But if you
Well,
cut your
I
hand
find
off,
myself in cooking, it doesn't stop, it just.
yeah, but really you're talking about a puddle.
Okay.
Okay, a puddle. Think about the puddle.
Elevate.
Believe it or not, yeah, for the hand, we can just direct pressure and elevate. Usually we'll solve those problems. We're really talking about those
Cut your whole
majors.
hand off?
If you cut your hand off, go for the tournament. Right on the tourniquet, yep.
Or three
Okay.
fingers maybe.
Yeah, if you got major bleeding, or if you can't get it to stop, just go ahead and go with the tourniquet, we'll take it off.
Yeah.
The other thing we're gonna do when we show up is we're gonna give you something for the pain. So that tourniquet's important, it's saving your life, we'll make the pain go away later. That's something we're pretty good at. So, the other piece of the kind of the education is, what happens if it's not an arm or a leg? Like, you're cutting wood and the axe bounced off and hit you here. Well, you can't really get a tourniquet on it. And what we're teaching people now, which is very different than anything you've ever seen before, is we're actually packing into the wound. We're going to be putting our fingers inside the hole that's created. The same if it was a gunshot wound. So in places that we would consider compressible but not able to put a tourniquet on, like your shoulder, your pelvis, your hip, the side of your neck, places that we can really push against, but what we can't put a tourniquet around, we're using wound packing as our method of stopping the bleeding. And we're going to practice that in just a minute. We're going to practice the tourniquet. We're going to get you all bloodied, because that's half the fun, is watching, half my fun is watching you guys practice. But the way that this works is we really are going to take whatever we have, preferably again the gauze that comes in your kits, and we're going to work that into the bottom of whatever hole it is that we've created. Whether that's because you slipped and fell on a stick and have a puncture wound, whether that's a gunshot wound, whether that's an axe, but whatever it is. So you're going to first, if there's anything that's in the way, you're going to remove it, and then we're going to push this all the way to the bottom of the hole. Make a little ball on the end, and we're going to pack this as far down in the hole as we can get it, because for what we've been teaching for years, and someone probably took a first aid class not that long ago, and they probably told you to rip open something that looks like this, put it over the top of the hole, and push on it, right? That's what we've been teaching for years. Well, what we've learned is whatever's bleeding is down inside the hole, and we haven't actually compressed what's bleeding, so the bleeding continues. So in order to stop the bleeding, now we're teaching you to get in where the bleeding is, which is, you can see all the way into my second knuckle. That's where the bleeding is. It's down there. So we're going to pack the blood all the way to the bottom of the hole with our fingers, or our hand, or whatever else, you know, my thumb. If it's a big slit, then we're going to fill the whole thing full of
Is
gauze.
this really painful for the person you're doing this to at this time?
Yep.
Oh,
But keep in mind,
So they're,
the choice is
they might be
pain
in shock.
or death, right? So if I'm laying here bleeding to death, I would rather the pain than having you let me bleed to death.
But do they fight back? Are they like,
You're going to have to reassure them
yeah.
that this is the right thing. You're bleeding to death. And if I don't stop the bleeding, you are going to die. We have very blunt conversations with our patients. I know this hurts. We will fix the pain in a little while.
And remember, we might be 10 minutes away, depending on if you live way out in Guilford or way out in Dummerston. It's gonna take us time to get there. We're gonna leave immediately this time is time. They could bleed out in that time. You're gonna stop that for them and give them a chance.
So this is life-saving. This is really life-saving stuff that we're teaching. So what if you don't have this nice, sterile, clean roll of gauze?
Sure.
Yeah, we're back to whatever you have. We're back to take something that's relatively clean and pack the wound with it. We're not, suggesting grab the oiliest rag you can find, but yeah, it's that important.
Polyester versus cotton versus.
Whatever you got.
Whatever you got.
Yep, whatever you got. And
Paper
ideally,
towel.
paper we don't want to go with if we
How long
can.
do you hold your finger at?
Oh, I knew someone was gonna get there. So we're gonna pack this wound for 3 minutes. We're gonna push it all the way in to the point where
Gets all bloody.
it's all to the top, and we're gonna push on it for 3 minutes.
Ah.
And this is where things get really crazy. And what
Is
did
the
they tell
person
you?
Screaming.
Yeah. They tell you once you put a bandage on, you never take it off?
Yeah, yeah.
We changed that rule too. After 3 minutes, if there's still blood coming around this, we're gonna pull it all out,
Oh. Put another one in.
and we're gonna start again. If we don't have a new one,
Use the same.
we're gonna use the old one,
Bring it out.
and we're gonna push it deeper,
Ring it
because
out.
clearly we weren't deep enough,
Oh my God.
okay?
Listen.
I can just hear the patient screaming.
Yeah,
Somebody loves.
but think about this.
Yeah, someone got
This is
it.
life and death. This is life and death. And this is, in our world that we live in today,
Yeah.
this could happen here in Brattleboro. This could happen at home. We see major bleeding all the time. And, this is the difference between life and death. This could be a farm accident. This could be a
Guns.
industrial. This could be gunshot wounds. I sat in front of an entire group of educators, and I've been working in EMS for 25 years. If 25 years ago, you told me I was going to be teaching educators how to pack gunshot wounds, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
If 25 years ago you told me that here in Brattleboro, all of our ambulances have bulletproof vests on them, I'd say that it's not possible. In Vermont? No way. We do. We carry ballistic vests for our staff. We carry ballistic helmets for our staff. The world has changed, and this is important. This is stuff that
Do you
is going to
guys
save a
wear
life.
vests?
Yeah.
I do.
All
And
day?
not all
I
day.
mean, when you know where you're going, you put it on?
There are certain places and certain areas and
Yeah.
certain,
Yeah, you need to.
yeah, that certain call types.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's a different world that we live in now. So, we're teaching as many people, as many groups, how to pack wounds, how to use tourniquets as possible, because I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. Someone at some point is gonna come across somebody, again, it could be an industrial accident, car accident, some horrible mass shooting or mass traumatic injury. And it's really gonna be up to the public to help themselves. We have a fair amount of resources in this, this community. Rescue runs 9 ambulances.
Just so you're aware,
When I was talking to the folks out in Las Vegas, they had 40 ambulances working that night. In 15 minutes, they were up to 105 ambulances because of their reserve capacity in Las Vegas. In Brattleboro, we have 9 ambulances that rescue operates. There are no more. It's very possible that, the size of that crowd is no bigger than the size of Strolling the Heifers crowd. Like, we have events this size in our community on a regular basis. So this is important stuff. So what I'd like to do is offer anybody that would like to practice, it is fun, to step up for your suit.
To get bloody?
Don't get real
All right.
Come on.
Bloody.
This will be fun, I promise. We brought you these nice little blues.
I don't want to get
The new look.
I might faint.
You're
That's fine. If you faint, we will take care of you.
The new look.
Oh, look at
You wear red
this. Your time
today.
to be the doctor. This is great. There you go. Everybody. Just put your little thumb holes in. You get thumb
I'm waiting
holes.
for someone to do my scrub.
Oh, don't worry, we're gonna do that too. What size gloves would you like? You have a-
Large, please.
Large. Would you like orange or purple?
Orange, please.
Orange, all right. We have options here. There you go. one large orange.
And what if you don't have gloves?
Then
I
you
got
do it
gloves.
without gloves.
You do it without gloves and just
You
hope
wash
for
your
the
hands a
best.
little.
Well,
Tequila? No?
So, yeah, I mean, this
When do you
is,
pour alcohol in the
this
water?
is a very possible thing
Only
that
on
you
TV?
may,
Yeah, we don't have gloves.
may not.
My hair is gonna get
That's a
bloody?
decision, no.
Okay, good.
Somebody else? Everybody gets gowns.
So have one of these at home, huh?
Yep, I'll,
I could just put an apron on, right?
yeah, you don't have to have the little blue smocks are special for
Plastic
training.
bag,
Yeah.
okay.
We bring them out
I don't
because
think I have any clothes.
I had a feeling that you may like your clothes.
Freak if I.
Yeah.
There you go, a couple armholes. Get everybody dressed, this will be fun. And you're famous now, 'cause you're on TV.
Oh, wow.
You ever want to be a surgeon?
No.
Never had that interest. I trust all this is also true for animals, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much? Yeah.
I've never tourniqueted an animal, but I'm sure it would work the same way.
They bite
You may
you.
not like it.
Yeah.
Alright, you got your thumb holes. What size gloves would you like? Large, or medium or small?
I'm a purple.
Well, you don't get that option, you get medium.
Well,
Rather
whatever,
than bring
that's
small.
fine.
Large fits me just right.
There you go.
Here we go. Put your thumbs in.
Look at this.
A large
Wow.
purple.
Before we get them bloodied up, we're gonna have to do a quick photo shoot here.
You want some? Are you bleeding?
Alright.
No, not anymore. I stopped.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, no purples, okay.
Is that what it feels like inside
Black,
the
black's
body?
extra large.
Excellent.
This is Strolling of the Heifer Surgery 101.
There you go. Yeah, blacks are extra large.
Is that really what it feels like inside a body?
It's actually very similar. Once we add blood, it will feel very much like a real.
Slippery or-
It'll be very slimy, yep. We're gonna start down here because
Okay.
that's less messy.
Down, oh, on the floor?
On the
with
floor.
With the limbs?
Yep. So what we'll do is we're gonna use these tourniquets because again,
Missed them?
these are the ones that we're gonna use or leave here in your kit. So something that's important, again, I mentioned that there are imitation tourniquets on the market, so people need to be careful buying fake tourniquets. The other thing is, you cannot reuse them. These are training tourniquets, so once they've been taken out of your kits, they're not any good anymore.
So we have to
So-
call you to replace?
If you have to use one, yes, we'll call us up, we'll be glad to help you out. What I'm saying is don't train with them. If you wanted to show somebody, hey, this is how they work.
How about
really
if we
get
wash
tight.
it?
It's because of the strap that gets, you'll notice in the new ones, they're very flat and tight, they're not wrinkled up. So it's the way the straps, once you stretch them, they don't work right anymore.
Oh,
So don't train with the real ones that are in your kits. If you want to teach somebody, give us a call, we'll drop off some training ones, we'll
Okay.
help you out with the training.
and once we, God forbid, have to use this on someone, the whole kit needs to be given to you to replace the...
Yeah, you call me up and if this kit saves a life, I will absolutely be more than willing to replace it for you.
Okay, sounds good.
No questions asked.
No questions. If that kit saves a life, we will be more than glad to replace it.
Okay.
If it doesn't, yeah.
If it doesn't,
If they die, what?
So
We still do it.
here's the deal.
You're
So
gonna start this thing
these
bleeding, aren't you?
are going to bleed, okay? The tourniquets have to be high and tight,
Yep.
okay?
one at a time we're gonna do this.
Oh, no, they both bleed together.
No, I mean, oh, we do two
One is over there.
people.
We have two legs,
Somebody can go right here, somebody can go right
Oh,
here.
I see, okay.
okay? So you're gonna tourniquet them,
But I have to kneel down,
Go
I
ahead.
have really bad knees.
Turn it
I need
on.
a tourniquet.
Here.
and here we
I
go.
can kneel down.
They are bleeding, and they will only stop bleeding if you get the tourniquets on right.
Squat, no, I can squat now.
What does the person standing next to her do?
You can help hold the leg up, help get the tourniquet in position. If you get them high and you get them tight, the bleeding will stop. If you don't get them high and tight, the bleeding will keep bleeding
Come on, Vicky, the guy's dying.
until
Vicky, come on, come on,
get
come
that
on.
Velcro cinched in. The Velcro cinched up here now. Crank, 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 crank.
What more?
Crank it up, crank it up, crank it up. Bleeding stop. Well done.
So,
Look at that. Been training for 10 minutes and you stop that bleeding in less than 5 seconds.
Mine's still gushing.
Is it bleeding still? Keep cranking.
Okay.
Is it stopped?
wow, let me shake your
Look at
hand. Dr. Vicky.
Well, you helped.
10 minutes of training and now you can stop bleeding.
That's all I can do.
So put this in here.
So you put the Velcro underneath, what
Yep.
was that?
So you want to get that Velcro all the way around,
I see.
because what we don't want is it to accidentally come undone.
I see.
So we want to bring that Velcro. Now that we've tightened it up, we're going to bring it all the way around like this. We're going to come underneath this tab.
A friend, they can help you do this.
After it stops.
After we get the bleeding
Yeah.
stop, then we'll make it neat. And if you've got a marker, you can write what time it went on here.
Oh, did you hear that, Ann?
Okay?
Yeah,
That's
You have to
interesting.
write the time.
So now that you've got the bleeding stop, let's
Yeah.
make sure we take care of this tail. What we don't want is this to accidentally get undone.
yeah.
Do you,
So we're going to bring it all the way
You're
around.
right, okay, I didn't do that part.
do you keep a pen in your kit?
Yes, there should be a pen in the kit.
There is.
Yeah,
A
little
pen?
Sharpie.
Wow.
Oh, to write it,
So
so
you can
to
write
write?
the time right on here.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
You should definitely
On
send it
when-
to all
when the
the
bleeding stops.
shopkeepers.
Yep, once you got the bleeding stop, first
Then you write
priority.
the time,
Yep.
not when you found them, it's like,
But you look
The
how
time.
quickly we,
okay.
with these tourniquets, you guys both stop bleeding in less than 30 seconds.
And that's good.
That's good. It
That's
takes,
because you're
And
good
again,
teachers.
it takes a matter of a
10 minutes
couple
to get
minutes
there.
to bleed all your blood out of your lower body if
Couple
you have
minutes, right,
a wound.
right.
So this is
Now,
really important.
you do it
Thank you.
over people's clothes?
Yes,
Okay,
you can go over clothes,
But how do
but
you
you
know
can't
that-
go over like, see my cell phone?
right.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah,
But, you know, we saw the blood stopping, but if it's under clothes, how do you know it's stopped? Would
Well,
it- The
You have
gushing?
scissors.
You have scissors, right?
Yeah.
We gave you, and these are special scissors, they're trauma
Okay.
shears. Come on down, we'll teach you. This is excellent. So,
tourniquets
yeah,
on a bleeding
you
leg.
cut them off.
You just cut it off, okay.
Cut 'em off.
All right. Okay.
All right, so I'll undo that. Go ahead, Joe. We'll switch up some positions here.
Position.
You have to do it. Oh, okay. Ellen, you want to try it? No.
Do you know how to do this?
Yeah, I used to work in the operating room.
The tourniquets are all new.
New technology.
So it's.
See how how it's all wrinkled up now?
Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and if you can't.
I'm surprised they don't create something that's not wrinkled and then put it.
well, they're only designed for one-time use.
Even if it's a knife, you know. in there.
Plus, if it's all bloody, who would want to use another
Yeah.
one?
These have been washed a few times from our
And then you
training.
write down the.
Yeah.
You can wash it.
Yeah.
What do you think? You guys want to try it? You want to try it? Come on down.
You gotta get.
We'll get some, we got some gallons and
So you
gloves.
wanna put stuff on.
Joe, I want you to kink this hose right here.
That's the way to learn.
Yeah, is it really
Kick that one.
Yep.
Ready?
So you ready?
Go. See how fast we're gonna kick it? Two gallons right here. You don't get all bloodied up. Right? This is good material. You never know, you might need it. I see blood, I see blood, I see blood, I see blood. Yep, wrap it, Velcro it right back to itself. Now start cranking, crank, 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 crank. Crank it up, crank it up, crank it up. Look at that, bleeding is stopped.
Turkey dinner.
Bleeding is stopped.
We need to pick this up.
Do you wanna learn?
Got bar right in there. Yep.
Ah, I see.
Flip this over so.
Look good.
No, hold on.
Good, I like it.
All about style.
All about style, yep. We'll pass this one around this way, this one around. All right, here we go. Down to the front.
Yeah, that's good.
Very
I
good.
know I'll live. Hi, Ollie. You want to try it?
Extra large.
Hey,
You get to be the surgeon, look at this. Here we go.
You've got a child. That's how you save somebody's life.
Is that
You've got a
good?
child.
Oh, you're a bit.
don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
I don't bite hard.
Try it.
All right.
Get scrubs on.
And then
I
medium or
go
large.
softly.
You get purple gloves. Huh? Look at that.
This is important.
And
Try this yet?
if maybe
Behind the camera.
the video, you gotta come back and do it again.
Even if you stop your
I
filming.
learned by watching, as the people at home will.
This
All right.
is so important.
Here we go. So, the way these tourniquets work, since we have some new folks, these are cat tourniquets. So, the key with the tourniquets, they have to be real. Okay, there's a lot of manufacturers that are making counterfeit ones, and they break. So, what we're putting out are these Stop the Bleed kits. They're around town, they're in our schools. That gives me one right here. So, The tourniquets are designed for self-application, not so on somebody else. So when they go on, they come out of the kits, they're in a loop already, so they velcro back like this. But if they're not, they're very simple to lace the buckle through and pull them tight. So, show you how to put it on yourself. You want to pull that as tight as you can. Ideally, you want to put your fingers under it once it's on. And you can see you get the Velcro to here, and you turn the windlass. This windlass is very important. That's the part that stops the bleeding. You keep turning until the bleeding stops. The key with these, when we apply them, is that we want them high and tight. Once you get the bleeding to stop, you tuck it into the clip, and you bring the tail around so that it doesn't accidentally get unvelcroed. And you bring the little tab across, that keeps it right at the time. Same tourniquet works on your legs as well as it does your arms. So if you're going to use it on a leg, again, the key is high and tight, what we're looking for.
I should know
High
how
as we
to
can get
on by
it,
now.
high on the limb as we can get. Like this side I got a cell phone. The cell phone would have to come out of my pocket. This side I'm going above my knife, so it's fine, doesn't matter. Tight, and then turn it. And you can cut all the circulation off your leg in about 10 seconds. Okay, so what's going to happen, just so you guys get some hands on, is we're going to make these things bleed, and we're going to see if you can stop the bleeding completely in less than 15 seconds. It won't stop unless you put the tourniquet on right. Okay, you ready? Set? Go. I see blood. You see how they work? So, on yourself, above the wound, I like to keep them as high as you can get them. Velcro. Turn once.
Hold on.
Turn twice. Right now there's no circulation, but if they're still bleeding, you turn it again.
Another chance for like 15 seconds.
Okay? It's going to be painful. It hurts.
Then this simply comes back around on itself.
It doesn't feel good.
Not a problem.
It saves lives. How we doing? How we doing?
See
Need
what
some
I'm
help?
saying? You put it right through this one,
You only need one buckle.
just one buckle. So let's try it again.
You get it stopped? Bleeding is stopped. All right, go for it.
Take this and put it through here. And then they'll come back that way. Which way you?
That way, he's right there.
Yeah, okay. All right, you did it backwards. Must be enough time.
But maybe. There you go. If you can, and you have a marker, you write the time on.
Great job, great job.
Perfect. We will take them off. So in the event that the tourniquet didn't need to be there, we'll just take them off.
Later. You can let go of this here and use both hands on it if you wish. Oh no, see, you didn't. You take this, you get as much, you just need to get more Velcro on it, because you're creating too much pressure, which you should be. Now try it.
There you go. Cranking it down. Good, good.
Okay, you stop the bleeding, very good, so you want to put that bar in there. Take this and push it in here. Yeah, with that Velcro there, yeah. You take this.
You can see if you use them once, they don't work very
There's a
good.
pen in the kit, you can mark the time that you put this on.
All right, so we'll leave that tourniquet on for now.
Want to do it again?
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem.
Take it right off. And
Do as many
we'll,
times as you want. So
I
you
like to
feel
use it when it's already
comfortable.
wet and gross.
Once, twice, 50, you don't care.
3 times a week.
3 times a week, there you go. You will take it right off, we'll start right
Use that one, that way you don't get this soap.
Doesn't matter which one it is.
So I'm gonna make it bleed here in just a second.
This, well, see, you had it here. Yes, this one here.
So what you'll notice is, that's actually an older one. The new ones only have one hole, it's bigger. So all the ones that are in the kits are much easier. All right, let me stretch that one back out too.
I'm gonna get my gloves on.
We're making a little bit of a mess, not too bad.
You mean you're having a little bit of fun?
A little bit of a mess.
How often do you have leaves like that?
Us?
Yeah.
We see them all the time.
I'm not saying we like it, we do.
Yeah.
So Drew, okay, when he's done taping, I want to tell you something.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Hold on
no,
just
we-
a minute. Can you show you how to use it?
Keep us busy.
You ready, Drew? Hit the button?
Oh, shall we?
No, go ahead.
Should it be like this way, actually? Underneath it?
Yeah, you put it on the arm like this, and it comes up through here.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
He's bleeding.
Yeah.
It's always nicer too if you can put the buckle up by the wound so you don't have to twist and turn. It just makes it easier for you.
I'm just thinking,
Good job.
Yeah, I'll wrap that all the way around if you can. No, this here. This here. Otherwise, it's just going to fall off because you're putting a lot of pressure.
Oh,
Now you can, well, yep,
and then did you get the,
nice and tight. Yep, bleeding stops, so you can go, yep, right
I
there.
was gonna say, it almost
Good
spilled
job,
out.
good job.
yeah. This guy slides through, so.
Then you write the
It
time on
just
there.
goes up
if you
over the
remember.
top, yeah. Well, we got this, we use that.
How'd you make out that time? You're done.
Could have done better.
Well done.
You stop the bleeding, okay? That's the important part. Great.
So here's the next piece. Oh, you're not quite done yet. You got one more station.
Oh, no, no.
All right. So for those people that are new, just join in to us. Tourniquets work on arms and legs great, okay? You will stop the bleeding almost every single time with a tourniquet. There are places that the bleeding doesn't stop as easy. So the shoulder, the neck, the high groin area, where you can stop the bleeding by packing the wound. It could be a gunshot wound. This could be a laceration from.
Ice pick.
This could be an axe that bounced back and got you. This could be a chainsaw. Okay. There's lots of areas, home, farm, industry, where this could be. It could be a wound that you can't get a tourniquet around. So what is very, very different in this education is what we used to teach is.
You want to join us? No?
What we used to teach was this simple, okay? The blood was coming out, and we used to teach, rip open something, a package, a piece of cloth, and put it on top of the hole like that, right? Push on. That was our old school way of doing things. Direct pressure. Well, what happens is, whatever's bleeding is down inside. And we weren't stopping what was bleeding, so it just kept bleeding underneath. Because there's a giant void under there that we weren't actually controlling the bleeding. So again, after over a decade of war, we've gotten really good at dealing with gunshot wounds. And what we figured out is, in order to actually stop this bleeding, we need to take something and we need to put it in the bottom of that hole, all the way down to the very, very, very bottom. Because if we don't get whatever we're stopping the bleeding with to the bottom of the bleeder, wherever that blood vessel is that got ruptured that's causing this trouble, we're not going to save this person's life. So we're going to push this all the way in until we can't push it in anymore. And yes, this is a little messy. And for the people that are coming in, yes, this hurts a lot because you're putting your fingers, you're applying pressure, tourniquets hurt. However, I'd rather it hurt and not be dead. And when you're done, you're going to hold on to this thing for 3 minutes.
Or
Because,
if you
or
don't
longer.
have, if you don't have a gauze,
Yep.
what do you do?
If you don't have this, any clean cloth, a strip of shirt, whatever you have, a clean strip of cloth, as clean as you can get, because it's that important. We can always treat the infection after. It's most important to get the bleeding to stop. If this doesn't stop in 3 minutes, this is where things get really crazy. This like blows my mind. I've been teaching nurses. You're like, you do what? Take it out. Try again. Because you didn't get it deep enough the first time. Is that crazy? Because we need to make sure that wherever that blood vessel is that's causing our trouble, we're getting in there to push on it. If
So
we
if you
don't
have
stop
a
it.
shirt, you have to cut the shirt into strips.
Yep.
You can't just take a shirt.
Yeah, because you need to get it to the bottom. So there's like a cavity in there. We're trying to get that spot that's way down in the bottom that we can't normally reach. That's what we're trying to get to.
So-
Way down in there.
If it's a gunshot wound, won't I be, my concern would be that I'm pushing the bullet further in.
Well, if you reach in there and you find the bullet, you notice I put my finger in there first, get it out of the way. Yeah. If you find a piece of fragment, there's a chunk of stick, a piece of metal, whatever's in there, a chunk of bone, get it out of the way. You gotta stop the bleeding. If we don't stop the bleeding, they're gonna die. Everything else is secondary to keeping them alive. So that's the new way of really dealing with these other places that you can't get tourniquets. And I can tell you, everybody is like, I've done bleeding control before. I'm like, you've never done this before.
Does it
This is
usually
different.
stop bleeding after the second try?
Hopefully. Hopefully it stops on the first try. It is important to point out that there are some areas of the body that we can't do this with. So if you get a hole in your chest, we can't pack your chest full. You need to be able to breathe. You got lungs in there. If you have a hole in your abdomen, we can't really pack that either because there's nothing in there but soft stuff. Your intestines, your stomach, so there's nothing to push
It's
against.
gonna keep going.
We're talking about areas like your shoulders, your armpits, your neck, where there's something hard that we can push against. Because if there's nothing to push against, we can't stop that bleeding. So this is really for the shoulders, the neck, the groin, the hips areas where we can get to. If it's a belly or a chest, then really the only thing that's going to save us there is a surgeon.
The back would be considered the same as the front?
Yeah, unless it goes through and through, yeah, there's just nothing we can do inside other than a good trauma surgeon. So what I'd like to do, anybody that wants to practice this is kind of a completely different skill. Joe, if you want to grab a set of gloves, my friend. Yep. You're going to push blood into this wound. These wounds also, just like the ones you were playing with down there, will not stop bleeding unless you get the pressure in the right spot. They'll just keep coming up at you. So.
Can you feel where the blood's coming from sometimes with your hand?
Quite often you can feel it, yeah.
Pulse from it, yeah.
This blood does stain. So
This one?
this blood, yes. So I would urge you not to itch your nose. The reason we gave you gowns and gloves is because this blood does stain. So again, wherever you put your fingers when you're done with this, we're going to tell. So, who's our first? Grab a syringe, Joe.
Okay.
It takes one syringe to fill it and one to torture them. I mean, one to
Make it work.
make it work. So here's a syringe full of blood to fill it.
And this is this one filled in, right?
Yep. Right. You got me that other bottle of blood over there. Somebody doesn't mind. I'm running low in the blood department. The other open one? This is where we make a mess. Perfect. Oh, there's not much in there.
That's why he ain't grabbed that.
We got a whole gallon.
Oh,
We never run out of blood.
hold on, let me refill.
Okay.
Okay.
I bet you wait for it, so there's no time on this.
We bought a whole bunch the day after Halloween.
Yeah, see?
Yep.
That's where you get your
Yep.
sales.
We bought a whole bunch the day after
The
Halloween.
only time things, the sooner you get it packed, the less
Ready?
blood they're gonna get.
Just reach in there, see if there's any debris first. Stick your finger. Ooh, yeah, that hurts. Ow, ow, that hurts a lot. All right, pack it full. Push it in there. Push the blood in there. Push the gauze in. Push it, push it, push it, push it, push it, push it, push it. Get in there. Pack that wound. Pack it, pack it, pack it. Pack it.
You're doing great.
Doing great. Keep packing it. Keep slimy. Pack it. Pack it, pack it.
There you go.
All the way to the bottom. Fill it right up. Push, 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 push. Get it in there. Get it in there.
Is it still bleeding, Vicki?
Get it in there. Oh, it's still bleeding. It's bleeding.
Oh, it's coming out the back.
Where?
Yep.
Oh my God.
That's all right. That happens. That keep pressure on it. You get pressure on it, it'll stop.
Now where? And
All right. See, you let off for a second. Push, push, push. All right, right there. See, I can't push it now. You're on it.
do I put more?
You got it. Stop right in a second. Yep. Keep packing. Fill it right up.
So, strip is better, like if I just had kitchen
got it, so I
towels,
can't
don't
push
just
on
grab a
it. You
kitchen
got it.
towel.
I got
Need
it, all
something
right.
little. Yep.
So now
But
not easy,
one
is
that
it?
another
No.
than
Now
another.
you hold it for 3 minutes.
hold it.
Okay. Hold it for 3 minutes. That's the hard part.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. We aren't gonna make you guys actually hold it for 3 minutes here,
that's
but that's what's next. You hold it, hold it, hold it, and hopefully it stops.
And
Hold it
how
up.
do you know because it's not coming out of the hole?
Stops coming out the hole.
It's
Yep.
not coming out of the hole.
I mean, if you don't go all the way down, it will still
It will
eventually seep
still
up.
start coming out,
Yes.
right.
So after 3 minutes, if it
Yeah.
isn't.
Uh-huh.
That's
So
how
you
you
can see in the bottom there, that was what was bleeding, is way down there. So once you finally get the pressure on it, that's what stopped it.
Got it. Ugh.
Yummy, huh?
Yeah. It's really like gross. Wow. Huh.
Can I take this off?
Yep. You know, I take the gloves off without getting dirty. Look at that. You got it?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the strip. So, if all I have is kitchen towels in the kitchen, right, something like that, I would cut them into long strips and then use one after another. I wouldn't try to tie them first,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Exactly. Well, in an ideal world, again, you're using nice, clean gauze.
Yeah. Well, I have clean
Get your
kitchen
gloves
towels.
off.
I mean, they can
Take
have
that
laundry.
phone out of my pocket,
Is
please.
that clean enough?
This one.
It beats bleeding to death. Everything beats bleeding to death.
Somewhere down
Nothing
there.
much worse than bleeding to death.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I need to look at it, so.
Well, not a whole lot.
Green one with a one on.
We can fix all the other things, like the infection, the pain, but if all your blood leaks out, there's not a lot we can do to help you.
Thought he was doing pictures.
Okay, just type
more
in
blood.
that right there.
Does anyone take pictures?
No, no, right there. And you say
Are you
thank
taking
you.
pictures, Ann?
Thank
A
you.
few of them, yeah.
Oh,
good.
you can type it. I'm not that fancy.
We got it on video too. What?
You know, we sure are.
Yeah.
Filming for
God's right here.
Brownsville Community Television, UV Stars, thank you for saving our patients.
Yeah.
Ready?
Because can we get stills from the video if we needed to? Yeah.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Oh, I'm trying, sometimes I'm trying to get it going.
There you go. There's the blood. Get to the bottom of it.
How's that?
Get to the bottom of it. Pack it. All the way down. Ow, that hurts.
Push it
Ow,
out.
that hurts. Push it in, push it. Get to the bottom.
Ow!
Ow.
I'm okay? I don't feel okay.
It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts a lot.
What are you doing?
Stop doing that. Stop. It hurts.
Are you trying to kill me? You trying to kill me or what?
Trying to help.
It's amazing what people will say.
So like if you rip up a sheet, would that work? A sheet doesn't really soak up. I'm thinking of a sheet at home.
It's not polyester.
I mean, not really trying to
nylon.
soak it up, you're trying to put pressure.
Your satin sheet. I mean, it could be in a
Push,
bed.
push, 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 push.
Bedroom,
Yeah.
Coming
towel.
out there.
Push, push, push.
Gunshot
Try
in bed
coming
with you. And then you
Push, push,
Watch too many crime.
push, 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 push,
I'm gonna
push.
push down hard, I can still, there we go. No, we push
Pressure on.
still,
Still bleeding.
still
push
bleeding.
down harder.
Take it out and
It's
do
not
it again.
easy, is it?
Is
There you
this-
go.
Is
Take
this
some
one, should
pressure.
we take it out and do it again?
No. You don't need to do that again.
That's good. I can't push anymore, you gotta.
Oh, I see, you're pushing. so that-
Right, but
yeah.
when I hit the plunger and she plugs it, it's
Yeah.
hard for me to push it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got
Push
it.
and hold, push and hold, push and hold. So here's another thing that, again, just to think about, with, once you have that bleeding stopped, and you pack that wound, you really want to keep that wound packed. So you can have the person, you know, is probably on the ground already. You get that wound that's all packed. You guys can feel how difficult it was to really hold that pressure. So once that's all packed, and you're pushing, 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 feel free to put your knee and put all your body weight on it. Okay? We need this bleeding to stop. So how long can you hold with your two thumbs?
Yeah.
Versus how long can I kneel on you? And I can probably kneel on you for a lot longer than I can push with my thumbs.
At that time, he doesn't think that you're his best friend, but you are.
You are.
He just doesn't
Okay.
know it. He is.
All right. So large. Who else do we have to try this out? Oh, we gotta pull our packers out. Pull our wound packers out. Clean the blood off the floor here.
Anybody else want to try it again?
You got one dry?
I did already. I'll do a pack.
You get one. Then we're gonna squeeze into a large.
Use that one.
Oh, wait, that's me. You want that one? That one, that's a,
We got,
I think so.
I'll actually go right here if you wish. You jerk,
I didn't realize that after.
That'll be a little
Michael,
fun.
just
I have a-
you're nine, you're itching to grab one.
Get it done today.
I hope, we'll see.
Ah,
All right.
I know where the other ones are, I need it. Oh, this is good. Is this cotton or no?
That is
The
it.
black shirt? Are you all loaded up?
I'm ready to go, if you
I
are.
gotta start seeing the blood first,
Here
right?
we go.
Oh my God, okay, make the ball.
Little ball that's in the room. It's bleeding, it's bleeding.
I'm going as fast as I can, right?
So where's my blood?
Get blood.
But,
Where's the blood? It's going as fast as it can too. I remember too, when these guys are like this, guys, girls, patients, your heart rate increases too,
yeah,
so
so
blood
it's
pumps
really
fast.
pumping out.
That is.
It's not like for you and I at 70 or 80 beats per minute, could be,
120, 130.
yeah, so, you know.
Kind of gross, isn't it?
Pushing
See
through.
it in life. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot.
I think you got it. I'm having a hard time pushing it. Push hard, 3 minutes.
You got that one back.
Things are coming out.
You got it stopped. Yep. Yes. Good. Found whatever's bleeding and you stop it. Well done.
Let's see, me.
What?
And just stay right on
Keep
it.
going?
Henry Road, see if you got everything on. Ready?
Got two little bleeders in
There
here.
you go. It's, I'm having a hard time pushing it. You got it. You got it. Believe it or not.
What do you think? Anybody else?
I did mine already.
Excellent. Useful. You got one more?
Thank you.
No, you got.
No, I already
Very
did
good.
that part.
Did you do this? Like this?
I did it already, I did it.
Anybody have any questions about what we're teaching and
This is so
why?
wonderful, I wish that more people in
So,
our community.
do the gauze, you have gauze in these kits? There are gauze,
This
okay.
kit is going to be
So,
left here. So there's multiple rolls of gauze,
okay, so that's for that, right?
bigger, smaller.
Yeah,
There's regular, smaller bandaging for your little bandages.
okay.
Okay, there's a tourniquet in here, and then there's one of these bandages, really bandages that we're putting in here. I'll show you how this works. This is really for that middle stage. It's not a Band-Aid type cut. It may not be a tourniquet type cut. So the way this works is you're going to put this little plastic bar. They're all vacuum sealed, so that's what's in there, but they're much smaller and they're vacuum sealed. You're going to put the little bar over the top of wherever the wound is. And then you come through this thing and you pull back on it. It kind of works like a little pulley, give you some extra tension. So now you can kind of see that that's where the wound was, where we're applying pressure. And then you can wrap this, it's a lot like an ace bandage, it's kind of stretchy, to help dress the wound up and help continue to apply pressure to it. So that's what's in there. So you've got we don't have any Band-Aids. It keeps wrapping this around, the little clip on the end, right here, that clips back onto itself. Again, a lot like an ace wrap type thing. But so you got one of those in here for kind of that mid-level bleeding. You got some gauze for packing wounds if you need it. You got some gloves in here, your tourniquet, scissors for cutting off clothing, and then some just regular gauze pads for regular bleeding control.
And pen. So I have a question. What,
Yep.
if someone would like to purchase or get one for their own home, can they do that?
They
Or
can.
How does
So
that work?
we have these available at Rescue right now. They're $60 a piece, which is our cost on the supplies. So the tourniquets themselves are about $30. So that's the bulk of the price. And then the Israeli dressings are just over $30. So, but you'll find these little red kits. They're all the same. We've got them at this point all over town. And if you walk into one of the stores, you'll find them. So they're the same kits that we use. So again, if there is some sort of mass incident, what you're going to see up from us out in the streets of Brattleboro are a lot of these kits. And what we'll probably do is just throw it to you and say, can you take care of him? Because we've got, I think, 50 of these at this point that are on our ambulances that are designed to be thrown out to the public as part of our new response plan.
And again, I can't stress enough, as someone who was trained 5 years ago,
Yeah.
it was the last thing we used, so you're actually more updated than they are. So just be prepared for that, and so, you know,
It's okay. This is what we do. We put tourniquets on, and we pack these wounds to stop the bleeding. It's life-saving information.
We recommend at home if you don't have a tourniquet kit like this at home, just a piece of rope and a
So,
strong stick kind of thing.
so you can, the key to the tourniquet and the tourniquet working properly and not causing damage is the width. So you really want the 1.5 to 2 inches.
Belt would be better.
A belt doesn't work because you can't twist it.
Right.
So you really need a windlass. And I kind of did a demonstration earlier. You know, something as simple as like a pair of scissors will work as a windlass. So like Joe, here, before you take that off, something like if this was a piece of cloth that was wrapped around, you could take
Oh, right.
a couple layers of the cloth and something to twist with.
Like a
That
dinner knife
twisting,
would be fine.
yeah, that twisting motion is really what causes, you know, the tourniquet to work. I would say a piece of fabric that's, you know, cut down to
Right,
that
to
1.5
strap kind of thing.
Yeah, something skinny but not super skinny. A piece of rope is going to do tissue damage.
Right.
So I guess, and this is not, you know, not part of the curriculum, but if I was laying at your house bleeding to death and all you had was a piece of rope that was going to do tissue damage, or I was going to bleed to death, I'll take the tissue damage from the rope.
Right.
But in an ideal world, we like to keep them like 1.5 wide.
Right. Try
So.
creating more injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
it's-
climbing and someone cuts their leg really bad on a rock, and all you have is rope.
Rope, yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than bleeding to death.
Sure is.
So, but the torso problem.
Torso
Do you
problems,
just
yeah.
really do nothing? I mean, what can you do that's better than nothing?
So, good question. So if the hole is in the chest, so, you know, that, heaven forbid, there's a gunshot hole in the chest, one of the things that happens is every time you breathe in, okay, the way your body works, when you breathe in, your diaphragm contracts and it creates this negative pressure and air gets pushed in. Well, it's got to go through your nose and up through the back of your mouth and down your airway. If there's a hole directly in, when you create that pressure, the air goes straight in, as opposed to going the way it's supposed to. So what you can do is, because there's going to be blood all over their chest, if you take that hand with a glove on it and you put it over that hole, because there's already blood there, it creates pretty much an airtight seal. Believe it or not, it's really good. So by covering that hole, then the air is forced to go back the way it's supposed to. So really the only thing that you can do that's really helpful, other than a surgeon, is if you can hear that air getting sucked in. Again, the hole kind of looks like this already. There's already blood. If you don't have the gloved hand, you can use a bare hand, but that kind of plasticky material with the blood kind of makes a really good seal. And just hold that so
That's
that
just for chest.
That's just for the
Because
chest.
It has to do with breathing.
it has to do with, right, so it prevents that air from getting sucked in the wrong hole. Other than that, there's not a whole lot. You know, you get a hold of the abdominal cavity, and unfortunately, there's a lot of blood vessels in there. There's a lot of soft organs in there, and there's not much that we can do unless we get to a surgeon where they can go in there and find out what's bleeding.
So you don't do the old-fashioned pressure on top?
You can. It doesn't really do much, but it gives you something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great questions. Any other questions? Well, thank you for taking the time to come and talk
What
with us
about
and
if you
learn.
have to do CPR when they're bleeding? Like,
So,
hopefully somebody else will be there, but you wouldn't do CPR with any type of chest wound, obviously.
Sure. So, the likelihood that someone that has a traumatic injury and it's bled to the point where they're in cardiac arrest,
Yeah.
that you're going to be successful is very slim. Because the reason they're in cardiac arrest is because they bled to death. So the focus really needs to be on stopping that bleeding early. The sooner we stop the bleeding, the better chance we have at survival. If you look down here at the pins where the legs are, those were very significant bleeding, and we did it probably 3 or 4 times per leg. And you guys were successful at stopping the bleeding in 15 or 20 seconds. And I would say there's probably not more than a cup of blood on each one of those. That's really the skill that we're looking for. If we can keep the blood in, then we've got something to work with. We can get them to the operating room and get those things fixed. If we had 4 gallons of blood on the floor, there's really nothing for us to do.
We were at the ready when it started.
At the ready.
As opposed to, you're somewhere, somebody yells, you come in, already they've been bleeding for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you can still do it 20 seconds, but how much blood is there gonna be after? I mean, how many minutes, like after someone's really gushing, is it kinda gets to be too late?
So the body is very resilient. So your body will start to compensate for itself. So as the blood volume drops, the heart does things like speeds up, the blood vessels contract to help squeeze that blood back up to the center of the body, the core of the body. So people can lose more than half their blood volume and still live. The key is that we've got to stop it. Every blood cell is important to us. We want to make sure that we keep as many in as we can. So as quick as we can get there, as quick as we can stop the bleeding. That's why this public campaign is so important to us. If in the amount of time it takes us to drive from Canal Street to Main Street, if you guys stopped it halfway, that's another blood cell that's inside. If you're at home and you stop the bleeding before we got there, that's 5 minutes of less bleeding than you had. Your outcomes are going to be remarkably better.
Does the Watches Hotel have a couple of these?
Not yet.
So are all the stores going to have them, or should we let all the stores know that we have it?
We would be glad to go to every single business in this town and do a class. If people are interested, they can get a hold of Rescue. We have Stop the Bleed at rescueinc.org. And you can stop the bleed. Email, you can set up a class. The classes are completely free. We're glad to come out and teach. And I would love to have, every single business, every single
So
youth
anyone
group
who
and
takes
club.
the class gets one of those kits?
We are attempting to.
So why don't
We have
we just
grant
do-
funding for some. We're trying to come up with enough so that we can hand them out to everybody, but we're working on trying to come up with enough funding. I'd love to see them in every business, every club, every civic group. And certainly the training.
So if we have another class,
Mhm.
and community shopkeepers or businesses come to the class, they may get one of these
Yep.
$60 kits.
Yes,
Okay, well, we'll work on it.
I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
But in the meantime, if everyone knows that you have one here.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Right.
Would be better if you've got one.
I'm assuming, where's your AED?
2 on every block.
Where's your defibrillator? You guys have an AED here?
We didn't get it yet.
Oh, well, then we should make sure you get one of those too. We'll work on
Yeah,
that too.
Yeah.
We'll work on getting a grant.
We talked about having it outside even.
Yeah, they talked about, yeah. And BCTV, you can put a link up on your website to this, to show what the training is, would that work for you guys?
Sure. We appreciate BCTV taking it for us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.